Good morning, everyone. Yes, Eve, you made it just in time. Wow. What a good dog you are for showing up and not making me wait. Hi, Maury. Hello, hello. Let's see who all is here today so we can start from the top. Kato, you have been sniping first so consistently. Well done. As JC put it, Kato, you fuck. Well done. Hi, Kato. Hi, JC. Hi, Maury. Hi, Eve. And got distracted by this really good, cute demon guy. Who? Who? Well, while you're typing that up, good morning, your radiant grace. Correct. I'm absolutely real. Meow. Hi, Mochi. Meow. Meow. Welcome in, Mochi. Today we're going to be playing more Vampyr. As I recall, it's been a bit, but as I recall, the boys are ripe for the plucking. We're finally getting to a point in the game where we can start killing people for fun. Yeah. And it's cool because what I'm finding so delightful about Vampyr is that its characters are written so punchily and so charismatically that there are some that are ripe for the plucking that I don't want to pluck, that I want to just let live because they're chill. They can hang. They can hang with the best of them. I'm probably going to get them eventually, but like they can hang. They can hang. It's fine. Anyway, I'm booting up Vampyr right now. I hope those of you who were present for my art stream on Wednesday were as thrilled as I was with the results. Absolutely fucking banger. My Candyland players who those were meant for didn't even get to the place where those assets were even going to show up, so they're going to have to sit dormant and unrevealed to my players for another fucking week. Didn't see all the results, but it was great. Maury, your sexy elf fan art was so fucking funny to me. Okay, we're going to switch to gaming, and we're going to put the gaming capture on Vampyr. Good. They shall slumber for another week. They shall not be dispensed. Okay, and then what else is wrong with this picture? I need to be closer. Hi, I'm your cute little vampire lord. I am the dawn. When you say good morning, you say it to me. Dove breath. If you insist. I'm trying to scroll on OBS, but VTS is picking up the scroll, so I'm just kind of zooping. Here we go. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with this. I think this is a good size for the rig to be at the moment. The zoomies. Right. Enter. Yes, I have to enter 3 times to start the game. Still weird. Pez dispenser is just a little too eager to be dispensed. Come on, dude, just this once. A little piece of candy. You don't want some? Just take it. Go, please, just once. Dispense me. I want to read that as like, pull the fucking trigger, Morty. Dispense the Pez, Morty. Fucking dispense it. Pull the trigger. Pull the trigger. Pez isn't good, but it's still candy. You'll eat it. You'll eat it. Being a Pez dispenser must feel so good to have candy taken out. I would imagine, because it's a bunch of spring-loaded tension, so I imagine it is literally a full body relief. Do you think it's orgasmic or just really, really satisfying? Getting your Pez's dispensed. Okay, I think we did a bunch of errands last time to make sure that everyone was fine. Yeah, cool. I think we're ready to just go right to... It's probably like a sneeze. So it shares neurons with orgasms, but it isn't necessarily that strong. Is what you're proposing. I think this way? No, way too early. I gotta cross a bridge. Man, I don't know why dodging bullets is so hard in the video game. What? Okay, I hope this is a correct direction. Hi, Scal. Handle those guys for me, Scal. Because we want to go across this bridge.
Steady, boys, we've got one of them.
This is where we were going. Shit, I forgot how to lock on. There we go.
There's one of them vermin. Grenade!
Here I go. Still alive? You motherfucker. There we go. Stop with your bullets. There are 6 results for Pez dispenser on R34. Oh, just a second. I'll read the rest of that after I'm done Path of Neoing this dude. John! Come on, man. Okay. There are 6 results for Pez dispenser on R34. Sadly, all of them were just a thing that happened to have one in the frame and not about them. Why? Interesting. I miss these streams every night. They're not on. I no longer know what I would do without these streams. Caro. You know, honestly, I have allowed myself to dream that if I get big enough that this becomes financially viable for me, I would love to do a stream most days of the week. I would love to do 4 or 5, you know? Like make it something akin to a 9 to 5, right? A stream being 4 or 5 hours long, 4 or 5 of them a week, and then a couple more hours every day, so to speak, for editing other stuff and setting up stuff. I've thought about it, and that's an amount of time I would be willing to devote, but how luxurious would it be, and how fortunate would I be for that to be in any way, like, financially viable for me? But you know, like, the point of this is just to create a community that freaks can be freaks in. And even if I personally dub Bleeding Heart, I'm not interested in your fetish. I'm interested in you being allowed to live comfortably amongst my community, knowing that we know you have that fetish and we don't hate you or judge you for it. And if that's the sort of community I'm trying to build, then it's going to be really hard to corporatize. Oh, I'm sorry, dude, I'm trying to talk to my dogs right now. Fucking leave us alone. So, you know, it's a long shot, but like I know what my values are, and I value my integrity more than I value the viability of it being financially something I can focus on.
So much blood. Whoever was killed got dried out.
Wow. As mainly a freak, the biggest sponsor you can get is Bad Dragon. That's true. The issue I see with Bad Dragon is I have no intention of revealing my physical body, my non-VTuber body, to anyone. And Bad Dragon focuses on promotion with people who do like internet sex work content with their own physical bodies and the physical products of Bad Dragon. It's like, it's hard to cross that barrier. You know what I mean? Quarantined area. Ooh.
You're surprising. Occasionally, you make a good point. We're being misled. Or worse, we're being baited by leeches playing a nasty game.
Ooh. Okay, so ideally I want to use my element of surprise to just blast this dude. I know he's shadow resistant, but we're the same level. And DPS on him is what matters most. So let's do it. Yeah, okay, cool. Stop with this power of Christ bullshit. Get your holy light away from me. Ah, shit! There. Man, that shadow resistance really matters. Physical is a really good solution to this guy, though. Cool, we got him. We got him. To be honest, it'd be a little funny to at least imagine dubbing popular enough for people to make a fuss over the Shotokan stuff. Then probably check and see some repost free positive like, yeah, be a pervert unless it's a bad pervert. Yeah, again, I've spoken on this before. I want my... I make a point of making my shibboleths very clear and using them often. You might have noticed I only just realized I could do this by watching Ray Robinstein's stream yesterday. In the tags of this stream, we have a Shota tag now. Because like I'm not gonna fucking play games. I'm not gonna play fucking plausible deniability games, right?
I have this.
I don't want to give any antis the chance to be like, oh, I didn't know. Like, come on, dude. You like little anime boys who are not old enough to fuck, and you like when they're sexy. You like that. God, Ray is so cute. I'm glad I found him through that tag. Ray is so fucking cute. I'm in his Discord, and he's also extremely, like, cool as hell. There's art in there that is certainly not acceptable on the commercial and company-driven internet. I feel like you'd hiss at Christian imagery, not because of any vamp weakness, because you're by the omnipresence of Christianity. Yeah, yes, absolutely. That actually is very true. I have no qualm with Christianity as a religion on paper, but I'm not going to pretend that it isn't like an entire ideological movement that has left a scar on world history that we're still trying to fight and heal from. Now this is cunty. This is some Saint Sebastian shit. Right. You know what? He's not here, but that's okay. I'm gonna do a little shout out. I wonder if I can. /shout out. Ray Robinstein. I hope I don't need to do case sensitive. /shout out. There you go. Everybody go follow this. This is a cute little Shota vampire boy. He's so cute. He's been streaming for a few years. His rig is so advanced and he's got a lot of assets and stuff. It's really good. Go follow. Okay. So yeah, this is cool as hell. This is cunty. I wonder if I can... It's not gonna let me move the camera in this one. First, got any money on you?
Only a golden watch in her pockets.
Take the watch or leave the watch? Leave the watch. Leave the watch. I don't want to have evidence on me.
Her shoes and clothes are quite worn out.
Okay, okay. Someone who worked.
The marks on this woman's neck were made by the fangs of a vampire.
Okay, cool. Vampire did this, probably.
This is the very flower my mother tossed on Mary's coffin.
Whoa.
Someone is targeting my family.
Muddy and Stale probably the one from Mary's coffin buried. That's awesome.
I see you.
Who sees us?
Right then. It's a sick game. But given no choice in the matter, I might as well win it.
Yeah, this is so good. I just looked at the screen. What's the sex? Yeah, right. Like the Eve, you're so correct that dead lady wasn't overtly like sexualized in a way that's like very 70s. Boys, look, body titillating, and instead it was like a pure vampiric like eroticism of like the curve that happened here. Like this is an eroticism of posing. Oh, sorry, it was Caro. My bad. Eve, if you want credit for that comment, steal it from Caro instead of just having me like misaim my eyes. Do it the right way with violence and theft. But yeah, no, it's so fucking real. Like I love the idea that you can do this kind. Like this is sexy, but it's not. Overtly, it is subtextually sexy. The viewer brings a lot to the table to find this hot. And indeed, the sort of viewer who I think Vampyr is aiming for is the kind who would bring that to the table.
This is despicable.
Listen, I think it's fucked up you're eating rats, John, but like this is mechanically kind of really incentivized. There's no downside to slurping down a rat. Mechanically speaking. Red is the vampire Capri Sun, for sure. Hey! This is that dead end zone that we kept going backwards along. Cool. Dove, how are you today? I'm fine. I took a nice nap. I have a lovely little coffee here. And all in all, I'm doing swell. I'm having a fun time streaming. My plans for moving to a different country are going swimmingly. Though soon I will have to announce an upcoming hiatus of an indeterminate number of months to do that because it's so big. But the plans are going along well, and that is such a relief. Okay, let's see here. That's right. I'm like, this place is so cluttered, there has to be more loot, and there was. Man, look at this fucking game. You know, a lot of people wouldn't realize this, but this level of fog and mist in London isn't just atmospheric. This is the same shit that Silent Hill 2 was doing. This is optimization. They don't have to render textures out very far because they have all this fucking mist. And instead, the lighting engine can make this place look so beautiful and give it a sense of realism. Going to be drawing you. Congratulations on escaping the US fan art for when you move. Let me know if you have any requests.
What was that?
Jonathan. Maury, anything you draw, any Dove fan art you draw is absolutely delightful to me. I have a growing folder of Maury fan art, and I treasure it. I guard it with your life.
You're very fast, but I'll catch you.
To the cemetery, right? And we just had the flower.
They've all been butchered.
Oh, we saw these bodies earlier. Cool. Is this going to be a boss fight at Mary's grave? Because that would be tight as hell.
I can still sense a presence.
Oh, it totally is. This is gonna rule. Joseph! Help me, please! We're going the right way. I am. I'm going the right way. Notice made when I checked the NSFW and Rage channel. I think he just became a wood chipper in there. It's so good. He's cultivating the exact kind of community that I wish to cultivate. It's. I'm inspired. I am inspired by what Ray is going on. Joseph.
You! What have you done?
Vicar Larrabee, what happened?
Demon! Hell Scourge! Son of perdition!
Vicar. Jonathan is no demon. He's just a loving son returned from the dead. Like your Christ, Vicar.
Mary.
Mary, it has been you all along.
What?
Oh, it's me, all right. Precious brother.
Why did you lure me here?
I'm gathering the family. For a final reunion. All smiling, all dead. Thanks to the good Dr. Reed.
Mary.
Mother? Say hello to your son.
Hello, Jonathan.
Mother,
What do we have here, Mother? The prodigal son has lost his tongue. Our Jonathan always had the first and last word at dinner. The entertainer, the star of our show.
I'm so thrilled.
He explained.
Shut up. It's my turn to do the talking. I have this nasty hole in my chest, Johnny. It needs to breathe.
Right then. Speak.
My prayers went so long without an answer.
Yeah, spill it, girl.
My husband, killed in France.
Yeah, give her a beat.
Child, carried away by the flu. My brother, promising to return in his letters, then disappearing in thin air.
This would be a cold fucking open to a rap.
Hospital to hospital, cemetery to cemetery, grave to grave.
Grave to grave.
Stone in London,
Every stone.
looking for an end to the nightmare. And there you were,
There she was.
in front of me, on a dark pier.
It was the hunger. You know it now as well.
The joy to have finally found you. I longed for your arms, a final happy ending to so much tragedy, to tell me all would be well again. As you did when we were children. It was this filthy dock where you greeted your sister. I dug a tunnel from my grave with my fingers and teeth.
I love her.
Mary. I had taken your life before I realized it was you. I tried to kill myself.
But you failed in your attempt. We cannot die, can we? We are a plague. I've watched you, Jonathan. You pull the strings and sever them.
I've done what I had to do. I did not choose this fate. But I will have my answers.
Ugh. There are no answers, Doctor. There's nothing left but pain and lies and treachery.
Mary, wait!
Time to go, Mother. Give my regards to my son.
No! No!
Oh.
This is what I do to those I cherish. Can you imagine what I've in mind for you?
Girl.
Finally, we hear the truth. Dr. Reed, admit it.
Yes.
Yeah. Takes joy in killing, who relishes the chase, the secrecy of it all.
I'm still a scientist. I shall find a cure for this madness.
You lie to yourself. Confess your sins.
Over the slaughtered corpse of our mother!
Are those tears, brother dear? Your heart still bleeds with emotion. My dead heart has dried.
You are mad.
Oh, so that's what I am, Doctor. Mad? I was beginning to wonder. I've been hearing voices, one in particular. That of my dead brother. This is the reason I must kill you. Not for your betrayal. Not for our poisonous kiss. Not even for the lies you tell yourself.
Our poisonous kiss.
So that smooth and wicked voice will stop ringing in my head.
I cannot let you kill again, Mary.
Oh, fuck yeah. Is she gonna fight us with her own fucking cross? Like fucking Soul Eater?
Brother. And this time for good.
This is so good. They're having such incest right now. Okay. She has some pretty considerable physical resist. Woo! Shadow is really useful for me today. What are you doing?
To me, Jonathan.
Ooh. She does sanguimancies. Oh, nice.
You've burned away Nurse Crane's mind. You're a monster.
This is so good. Okay, she resists paralysis. Oh, kiss. These two are having some Game of Thrones level sex.
Give me your blood, priest.
Oh, she's slurping the priest. Nice.
Final thoughts are just to die for.
This is so good.
What have you done?
Woo. Ooh, what? It's okay. We're siblings. We both whiff in the melee. It's fine.
Assassin!
Stop. Stop it.
Rest in peace, monster.
Okay, so she resisted the animation, but we still got the damage. Mary, can I play as you? If I die here, can I play as Mary? Because that would rule.
Kinslayer! What have you done?
Whoop. It's a Reed siblings thing. We like to miss in melee. We like to just completely fucking whiff in melee. It's a siblings thing.
You killed me, brother!
She's really chewing on my stam.
Come to me, Jonathan.
Woo!
Abomination!
God, she's got moves, gang. Fine, I'll use a vial.
Rest in peace, monster.
Okay. Okay, she has a lot of like resist anims.
Sean Hampton, don't expect the same mercy from me. Kiss me again, sweet brother.
Don't say that. Girly pop. Here we go. This is what we were fishing for. Stop.
What have you done?
Wow. Does Mary know she became the baddest bitch in London? Does she know that?
Brother, It's time to bring this conversation to an end. Forever.
Yes. Handing your brother the steak.
Game.
Calm now, Doctor. Like a rabid dog. Or think you're performing an autopsy.
Row.
Don't be ridiculous.
It's crazy how this woman understands yaoi so perfectly.
I'll kill them all. The kind Dr. Swansea. The sweet little lass with hair of red. I am the Harbinger, bringing your punishment.
Mary.
Don't you see? This is not me.
She wants to die.
For ages. All nightmare, no dream. Bring it to a close. Let me sleep.
Do we get a choice here? Is this a choice? No, okay.
I will find a cure, Mary. I swear it.
I understand why they couldn't let us make a choice here.
I can forgive you.
This character is a bit too much of a wild card to consider as an active piece in the narrative in a way that would be compelling. It's a matter of necessity, I think. It's a fighting game. I'd be a rush down character that tries to get you through swipes and slashes for highbrow. I think we've had this conversation about fighting game builds before. As we all know, I would be a charge, fucking kills you with a big blast. Fire, 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 explosion, laser, explosion, fire. Maybe a syringe every now and then. Fire, explosion. For my neutral special, I throw a shrimp at you. One of my barks would be block this overhead, and the thing I'd be doing in the bark would not even be close to an overhead. It would just be a fucking blast.
Blood. As I shed one last red tear for my fallen sister.
Just a second. I didn't realize we were in ads again. This is crazy. Fuck. I must have been in the middle of the fight when it happened.
Around this singular word. The epidemic that has stricken London is not the Spanish flu. It is transmitted through the blood via violent biting, turning survivors into frenzied immortals. I am Dr. Jonathan Reed. I am a vampire, born anew into an age of death and pestilence. While plotting factions close in around me, I am sworn to find the source of this epidemic.
Uh-huh.
I am convinced greater perils are still to come.
The game's not over.
I know the answers I seek are hiding in our blood.
Well, this fucking ruled, dude.
The flower's dying. It needs water.
An invitation from Lady Ashbury. Yeah, that was fucking great. Hey, this game is fucking skyrocketing in terms of quality, especially the quality of writing. I am now willing to commit to saying so far, this is a good fucking game. All right, Gloam, I'll fucking hydrate. Coffee. Okay. Dear Dr. Reed, I hope this letter will quickly find you, for I need to speak to you as soon as possible. The situation is evolving very quickly in the West End, and I'm convinced that we are all now in great danger. The Guard of Priwen has launched a great hunt in London, and for a few nights they have been actively searching and killing any Acon they can locate. Lord Redgrave, chairman of the Ascalon Club, recently contacted me. He wishes to meet you immediately. Please come to my mansion at any night that suits you. We must discuss all of this. With this letter, you will find an official pass that will allow you to go through any barricade or quarantine checkpoint throughout the city. Your friend, Lady Ashbury. Ooh. Did we just get a Metroidvania double back and check the locked doors ability? Let's make some serums. Cool. I'm not really in a position to make... Okay, cool. You know, I like having a gun in a game, but I don't like having to worry about ammo, which is why I'm not using one, but I really should. Dear Jonathan, I asked Nurse Crane to secure an office for you on the second floor. Please forgive the austere decoration, but Pembroke Hostel... Oh, I was supposed to read this when I came in. I get it. Griffith, you're gay. I get it. We've already scoped around in here. I need keys for whatever's in here. Is no one gonna mop up? We're understaffed. For some reason, we're understaffed. I shouldn't be hard on them. I'm still on Mesmer 3. I think we're just gonna go right to Lady Ashbury's mansion. Are you forklift certified? Why would I work on getting a forklift certification when I can just ride the forklift? Like, what are they gonna do? Stop me? Do you think they're gonna stop me? Do you have any? Do you think that maybe they're gonna stop me? Do you think perhaps someone's going to ride the side of the forklift and try to rip me out of the driver's seat and stop me from driving a forklift into somebody's house or car or wife? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to get stopped by someone. Who could ever stop such a cute little boy? That's right. I sit on a little stack of books so I can see over the dashboard of the forklift. Oh, it's Daddy. Previously on Hannibal.
You must prepare, child, for the earth is bleeding and the harvest is upon us.
Stay away, whoever you are.
This is no time for petty quarrels, my champion. Can you not hear? The famished queen has awoken.
A queen? I'd like to tell him to shut the hell up. Shut the hell up.
I insist you be quiet.
Son, do you not see? You are the healing balm.
I had to kill Mary.
I have known your pain, child. Do not succumb to...
Silence! I dismiss you now!
The land calls for a champion. All and everyone needs you.
Silence.
Interesting.
Tired of all these puppet shows.
You're in Finsbury Gate. Yeah, the famished queen. That sounds like a good old-fashioned Dark Souls boss moment. Idiot. Did you ever see, okay, everyone, I need you to say no to this question. Have any of you seen Stravinsky in the Mysterious House? If any of you say yes to that, honestly, I'm so sorry. Actually, no, good. Stravinsky in the Mysterious House is a cheaply animated adaptation of a radio program for kids from like the 70s or some shit. It's bad. It's not good. It's really bad. It became a meme a few years ago. I am the Glubgo Gabga Lab, the show double blah 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 blah. That's one of the characters in there. He has a song. It's one of those. It's one of those shows that is a musical, and every song is a character introducing themselves and their whole bit. And the only time that's ever been good is Cats 1998. I am the East of Thoughts and Mind. That's right. I am the East of Thoughts and Mind. Yeah, so Stravinsky and the Mysterious House. It is kind of like Narnia, a Christian supposal text, which is so cool just to think about. And what is natural of Christian supposal texts is basically the writer comes up with an OC version of Jesus Christ that works in this alternate universe. This is what Jesus looks like in this other world that God created. And the Jesus analog in Stravinsky and the Mysterious House is the Scarlet Queen. Which fucking, like, now that, the, who? What? And of course she shows up and she's just this pretty white lady in a red dress who's like, Stravinsky, you have been good and faithful, and you didn't read a book, and you're so good and brave for not reading a book and letting science poison your faith, and you know, whatever. But before she shows up to say that, John, I know you're impatient, but like I know you just lost your sister. Ruminate on that while I talk about Stravinsky and Mysterious House. Okay, thanks, John. Love ya. Stravinsky and the Mysterious House, the Scarlet Queen. Before she shows up, right? Stravinsky's little friends have been turned into like statues or something, or are otherwise placed under a curse because they have been reading books. Their minds got sucked into books or something like that. They're about to be turned into the Glubgo Gabgalab, who used to be a beautiful elf until thoughts filled his body. And so the Scarlet Queen is Jesus, and Stravinsky is like, no, I need to save my friends, and he sings a song that goes, please hear us, dear Scarlet Queen, and I like the idea that a little, like listen, this is how my creative flow works. I get something stuck in my mental craw, and I'm like, how can I make this good? How can I take this and what would I do to make it good, right? If we peel away all of the trappings and all of the bullshit, there is some cool Dark Souls from Softian lore we could make out of this. The Scarlet Queen invoked by the plea of a child who fears knowledge that will hurt him. She comes when you pray, and you had best not pray. Anyway, they should hire me to write for Stravinsky and the Mysterious House 2, where Shakira will be performing Dr. Sonia Holtzworm, the antagonist. I wish Mary was still alive. That was a good fight. I wish the rest of the game was just John and Mary having extreme no-touch sibling sex. I think that would be really good. You'll die on the Hill of Holes from needing a standalone movie. No. I just need her to be like the Doc Ock of all media.
I cannot enter.
Oh, that one's new. L'Aiglon, Edmond Rostand, Thrice Fletcher, Royal Hall, Red Crown Street. People doing murder out there. Make us pure, let your love be seen. God. Why did you fuckers remind me of Stravinsky and the Mysterious House? I didn't want to watch it. I didn't want that to be in my fucking skull, but here it is. Oh, is it up? Do I need to go up? Hold on. Is this? I'm losing track of where I'm at. Is this her house? This one's a top. We make you watch it like Clockwork Orange. This one's a top. Is this the right way to go? So like, you know, alternatively I could like go that way and around. Fast travel would be great. Hold on, exclamation points. There are events. All right, you know what? As much as I want to go see Lady Ashbury, this is interesting. Die or something. Oh no, don't touch me, John. Hey, I was just running up to you to say hi, man. Don't like touch me or nothing. That's how he looked when he was guarding. People fighting over there? Yes, they are. And they're just outside of animation asset reach. I gotta savor that praise because I finally did something praiseworthy. Oh, yeah? What did you do? Was it you who reminded me of Stravinsky? Because if so, fuck you. That's not praise. That's not praiseworthy. People are just fighting all over the joint. I'm wondering if the kills happen over there, do I get XP for it? No, I don't. Okay, so who cares? Say something that didn't make me feel like eating my arms, made me go, oh, that looks cute, good job. Oh, nice, that's a good line, that's a good point of advancement. Ooh, a hot wolf man. Death. So cold in the night where the river flows, where the river flows. Sail away, I'm so sorry. Every day's a new day. Pray for love, I'm so sorry. Try to find a new way. A new way. A new way. A new way. Oof. Jesus, they're really getting my ass. I need juice. Okay, well, there's one. That makes my life a lot easier. John, I really need you to just figure out the limits of your body. Hold still. More juice for me. It is I, the fourth dimensional Ziltoid the Omniscient.
Cherish the mind. Cherish the mind. Cherish your mental sanctum.
I love that album so much. I want to get more into metal, but I've noticed that when I listen to metal, I tend to prefer things that are more melodic, stuff that I can sing to in a prettier way rather than a snarling way. And that's hard to sort of get into there. Oh, I thought that was also from that radio program. No, honey, no. If that song was from Stravinsky, I would like really like Stravinsky. No, that is from an album called Ziltoid the Omniscient by Devin Townsend. It's about an alien who invades Earth to get a cup of coffee, and it's bad coffee, and so he decides to destroy the planet. And Ziltoid is, I'm not gonna lie, Ziltoid is my baby girl. I love Ziltoid so much. I want merch of that little alien.
What on earth happened here?
I love whenever albums have a whole story. Hey, if you want an album that has a whole story, may I recommend to you Poe's album Haunted, which is the companion OST to House of Leaves, one of the best fucking horror stories of all time. Because Poe and Mark Danielewski, they are brother and sister. Poe, so the artist is named Poe, P-O-E, and she has two albums, Hello, her debut album, and Haunted, which is the album she wrote and produced for House of Leaves, her brother's book. House of Leaves is what really kicked off the Bad House weird fic movement that you see represent itself in My House.wav, Kitty Horshow's Anatomy, Control. House of Leaves is a seminal work from the 90s, and it's had a resurgence in popularity due to internet culture just kind of picking it back up again over the course of the past maybe 5 years, honestly more like 10 years now. And with its resurgence has come a resurgence in Poe's interest in Poe's album Haunted, and by extension, Poe has been drip feeding us some new music, which is great because her only two albums were back in the fucking 90s, so pretty fucking wild. Oh, we used a small key for that.
It's locked, all right.
And I'm haunted by the lives that I have lost and actions I have aided in. I'm haunted by the hallways in the starting room, they echo there. Me and you, voices that are telling you the truth.
Right.
Ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-da-ba-ba, 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 ba-da-ba-ba. Poe is such a great musician. Bangers all the way down. There is not a Poe song that I dislike. Oh, Sean's gone full beast mode. Damn, that was short-lived. Anytime I start singing, I'm back in the fucking building again, cause you need church. Aw shit, here we go again. I'm waiting for my big move to cool down. I can take down Sean, he has no shadow resistance, I can get his ass. Ooh, he's 5 levels above me. I don't give a shit. My favorite King Gizzard album is essentially 3 tales in the same album. The Tale of Altered the Beast, the Balrog versus the Lord of Lightning, and Han Tumi, and the multiverse, the Murder of the Multiverse. That's so cool. Sean practicing his metal vocals.
You fucking whore!
I would actually go for it if I wasn't like indoors next to a microphone. You know what I mean? We got 10 more seconds before I can get him. Did you know that time is no straight line? Everything that you learn, well, it's gone away. I like that he's a summoner. That's a cool little move. Oh, get off of me, you stupid Catholic. Ooh. Damn it. All right, we got to bail. We got to bail. Okay, okay. Stop with your summons, you stupid Irish man. Okay, I only have one. Oh, okay, he got me. He got my ass. Dove, can you recommend more Florence the Machine? Her entire album, How Big, How Blue, How Beautiful, is to me her magnum opus. It is so fucking good. I used a lot of that for my my big D&D game that I ended relatively recently. Queen of Peace is a blast. I know you like that one. The title track, How Big, How Blue, How Beautiful, has an ending that is such a beautiful like brass chorus. Oh, that's really nice. I'm just realizing I can get this guy from up here. Ceremonials is also great though. Hunger is a single that she released that's really good. At 17, I started to starve myself. I thought that love was a kind of emptiness, but at least I understood then the hunger I felt. I didn't have to call it loneliness. We all have a hunger. So tell me what you need, oh you look so free. The way you move your body, baby, come on and work it for me. I cracked a little there. I really need to hydrate. If only someone would redeem it. The way you move your body, baby, come on and work it for me. Thank you, Eve. Just a second, guys. Okay, I had to handle something. Yes, you had a brief dead dove moment, but I'm back, so get your fucking jaws off of my thigh meats, idiots. There we go. I gotta use that shadow damage. So we're everything's fine. I just had to handle something. It was urgent, but not an emergency, if you know what I mean. Had to be handled now, but it was not anything. What the hell's this? What's going on here? Now I'm getting DMs. Okay, okay, cool. Ah, another hydrate. Fine. All right, all right. What do we have to offer you for a bite of thigh meat? Well, here's the thing. I have my inner circle of bleeding hearts, my elites. Within that inner circle, only the best dog has a chance to sniff. Am I made clear? And then you have to fall into a specific sort of series of character traits. Hey, I've been allowed to sniff. That's true. Maury, you have been allowed to sniff at times. There were times when you were the best dog. Gotta DPS this Sean Hampton. Stop being Irish Catholic at me, sir. Hold still and eat this. Stupid. Stupid. Okay, okay. Being a non-sub in the chat feels so peaceful just watching you fall over yourself. Karo, I do hope that whatever part of you that is Dami is getting rabid and furious at the desire to be a brat tamer. Because that's also a market I'm trying to appeal to. Not that you fucking could. Ah, hell yeah. Okay, so let's see. Sean Hampton, dead. Missing. Cool. Yeah, rip, Sean. How don't I talk about your brattiness? Sometimes it's fun. Talking behind my back? Ms. Paxton, I recently heard that Hampton's shelter for months and money or support of any kind without a positive answer for you. My boys always get what they accepted no for an answer. Keep on refusing to answer me and wet boo boys come, you and your sister. Ooh.
It's locked.
It's locked. Gang, it's locked. I don't know what to tell you. Is this a... Wow. Ah! Hi, Val. And there's a barricade here, so I'm like just sort of curious.
It's locked.
It's locked. Okay, so we can check out these other two events in the docks, because maybe that's where people went, but I do want to just sort of check, because this place went gnarly real quick. Wet Boot Boys is such an English gay name. Yeah, absolutely. Catch you in West Gloucestershire and you'll catch the rifle. She suck on my willy, it's really quite delightful. Catch you in West South Gloucestershire and you'll catch the rifle. I love that fucking post so much. What the fuck are you saying? It's a post about how British rappers be like... It's not like a World Heritage post, but it is a classic to me at least. So curious if maybe there's something down here now. Well, there's a fire down here now, if that's worth anything at all. Just another fly inside of my cup of iced tea. These things love dying in there. Would you rather die in something that isn't a delicious drink? Who manned 'em over by the chip shop? You can't stand 'em. Oh, ad break starting. See you guys in a bit. Bye. Okay, welcome back in. We have a mystery to unravel. What became of Sean Hampton's flock? And can we juice any of them? Any of them at all? It looks like we got some just down over here. Well, do we think I gotta... It's right there, so... Probably just jump over the bridge. Can't. Right? Yeah, because then I'll go over. Okay, cool. That guy's a flamethrower, so I'm just being a little bit cautious about it. There we go. Nice and easy.
We have to stop it.
Come on. I go to bed for now. Good night, Gloam. Enjoy yourself. Not too much. Ooh, your rate of fire has increased. Cool, cool, cool. That was a new one. Go back home, idiots. Okay, so hold on. Is it not in here? Is there a door I can use or something? Oh, that's Giselle. She's joined the Previn. Ah! Alright, hydrate in a second. After I'm not getting killed for glancing up at chat. Well, those invulns really saved my ass. Give me your juice, Giselle. Whoa, they just spawned in. Okay, hydrating now. Don't get me. Oh, they're getting me. Murdering bastard! I drink Dove. You wish you could.
Doesn't like fire, does it?
Can I go in here? What's in here? Have I been in here? I think I've been in here. Dove Cola was the soda with a bite. Oh, I love it. Love it. Not a bit and a bite. Water. What about water? I still have coffee. We know the rules. I'll drink water when I'm out of coffee. Okay. We need to find Lottie. John, take me with you. Is that a character too? There's Lottie. She's gone full vamp. With dark resist, no less. Okay, waste of blood, waste of blood. Alright, come on, come on. We can do this. I need to take care of her ads or this is not gonna go well. There we go. Fuck, 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 fuck. Gotta go. Oh, bye, Aaron. Have fun. What? Ooh, I got 2 of them with that one. That was good. Where? Okay, Lottie, I have you now. You're a level 30 scout, but it doesn't look like you have that many cool moves. Uh-huh. Haha. Gotcha, bitch. Okay, well, that's all that figured out. There's an event at the hospital with Dr. Swansea. Something happened in Whitechapel as well. Probably Dorothy Crane related.
Steady, boys, we've got one of them. Yeah.
Ah! Alright, Maury, I'm almost done with my coffee. If you believe me. I'm realizing that there's a quiet reward for my horny little dogs, where if you hydrate me through my coffee and I have to step away to get some water, you also get dead dove time. Okay, like through the warehouse. Or, you know what, maybe I should just go north to Whitechapel. Yeah, fuck it. Hold on, was that a wolf man? Nice. I like seeing them. I like wolfmen. I like when video games let their wolfmen be sexy. Or when they do it on accident, that's also pretty funny.
It's locked, all right.
God. Fucking Dark Souls ass door system. Gotta have sexy dogs to kick. That's right. He's one of them. Come on, come on. Pardon me. Just trying to get through London when I can't fast travel, and I'm coming around more and more to not being able to fast travel. It's tedious and it's annoying, but the point is to make you see the direct consequences of your action on the districts. Right. That's where I got locked last time. You go around. No appreciation for the dogman. I don't tend to make a distinction. Ooh. I'm being forced to walk slowly. Wow, video game. Video game, please.
Whatever this poor woman did, nobody deserves this kind of punishment.
It was cool that they locked me in a cutscene while I couldn't fucking while I was in combat. That was great. I wish I could have focused on what was happening. John, come on, dude. John, get it together, John. Okay, okay. Quick little map check. We're right near where Lady Ashbury hangs out, and I'm wondering if I want to stop. I'm going to stop by here and then continue with these events. Vampires are fighting dudes in the streets. That's cool. Oh, so the vampire is also an opponent? That's wild. Can you two start fighting again, please? I see that hydrated kobold. All right, here. Coffee's done. Oh, did he just steal my juice? Is that what that was? Well, this has been fun. Oh, what? He interrupted my ult? You little motherfucker. I'll take your juice directly, then, idiot. Stupid. Okay. I'm going to get some water. Behave. Fucking kicks you? Fucking kicks you, kicks you, kicks you? Get away from my ankles. Stop licking them. I'm gonna open this door. I can open this door, right?
It's locked.
Okay, I just straight up need a key.
So this is where she lives. What a splendid house.
Gang, we're going in Lady Ashbury's house. This is better be fucking good. Is she gonna be mad at me for killing people? Is she gonna be mad at me? Maury. Yeah, it's so crazy. You have an exact clone.
Welcome. How are you?
They're playing the Ashbury music again.
Considering the circumstances.
Yes. Death and affliction seem prevailing themes of late. Please, come in.
We have much to discuss.
I hope I haven't disturbed you.
Not at all. Actually, I was counting on you visiting me tonight.
How strange, this painting. Beautiful, melancholic, yet with a haunting dignity.
Indeed. A long time ago, a friend asked me to paint this for him, but I kept it in the end.
I did not know you were a painter, my lady.
There are many things you do not know about me, young Ekon.
She's laying it out. I like the sort of dynamic that these two have, and I think John right now would go, "Are you mad at me? Why are you mad at me?"
Why do you continue to mock me?
Please excuse my behavior, Jonathan. I tend to tease my friends when
Oh!
You, my lady. Your letter was quite alarming.
We will talk about this in a few minutes. For now, I would like you to tell me about yourself.
They're
How
friends.
have you been since we last met, my friend?
They're friends.
My sister Mary. She was made a vampire in the same way I was. She was the one killing all those people everywhere I went.
Vengeance is a powerful force for those betrayed. Made vampire through careless error. Victims by surprise.
In the end, she implored me to put an end to her misery. But still, I felt I had taken her life twice.
I am so sorry for my accidental cruelty. Had I known your dear Mary was still alive, I would never have sent you to pray for her soul in that church.
There is no need to apologize, my lady. Your words have been most helpful in these difficult times.
Thank you, my friend. If only we could have guided your poor sister through her terrible nightmare.
I don't know if that's before, but are you hot to the touch with seeing the sun at all? Absolutely correct. I produce so much fucking body heat, it's not even funny. I like it's a real fucking it's a real pickle because I like to be wrapped up in blankies when I sleep. I like to have so many blankies and a weighted blanket, and I like being all cozy. But then I start burning up and sweating. So what ends up happening is I will go to bed, usually naked, underneath a shit ton of blankets, and then over the course of the night, I will need to blearily and not even halfway to consciousness, I will sort of rearrange the blankets such that I am lying naked on top of them with the window open to let all the cool air pull the heat from my body. And what really sucks is Astaroth won't share a bedroom with me because he doesn't believe in having a window in your bedroom. He thinks it's bad. It's bad because, you know, like ancient Sumerians, and you know that's where Astaroth originates from and stuff. Like you'd never put a window in your bedroom in Sumerian culture because that's how you let death in. And I've asked him to elaborate on that, and he said, if you don't get it, you don't get it. And I'm like, fine, all right, I'm sorry. Fuck. You stick limbs out from under your blankets to cool down? Yeah, my feet especially. My feet produce so much fucking heat. He refuses to elaborate. I asked him about the fucking dog walks into a bar joke. And he's like, you wouldn't fucking get it. And I'm like, explain it to me. Who? Astaroth is my beloved.
I swear I did not intend that. If only I had known then how vampires are created.
That is the scientist speaking. In truth, most of us do not know how it really works. Personally, I make sure my prey will not return to haunt me.
What do you mean?
I am merciless, Jonathan. I only feed on the dying, and I make sure they are dead before leaving their remains.
Ashbury's such a cool character. I love her.
I came to the conclusion that my maker, whoever he might be, must be a powerful vampire. Certainly extremely old.
How have you reached this conclusion?
Hey, listen, actually, regarding the dog walks into a bar joke, like, I've asked Astaroth about it, I've asked his contemporaries about it, and they've all said, you wouldn't fucking get it. Or they're like, it doesn't come across in translation. And I'm like, you know what? I think they're completely fucking lying. I think it's a meme, right? I think it's an ancient fucking meme. I think it's an anti-joke, right? It's like a here come dat boy. It's like a live slug reaction. Like you wouldn't get it. Not like I feel like we know. I feel like the joke has been perfectly fucking translated, but it's just a meme. Guess I'll open this one. All right. All right. He said the thing. I think that's it. I think it's a meme. Hey, did you know I've actually studied Sumerian, passed the exam and everything? Really? That's so cool. Are you gonna help me write a love letter in cuneiform to impress my sweetest? I'll get the clay and I'll get the little stick, and we'll press our little wedges in. Acadian is easier. All right, all right. I actually was thinking of doing. I haven't done a collaboration stream with anyone. I've been thinking about doing a collaboration stream with Vampyr or someone else in my immediate VTubing circles where we play the Royal Game of Ur. Because there's a website where you can do that online. And God, I love the Royal Game of Ur. It's so fun. Astaroth and I will play that for hours, and I'll trounce him. And he's so mad that I'm so good at it.
I felt this power radiating like an aura every time he appeared.
Most ancestral vampires of England were killed by the Guard of Prewen half a century ago. I wonder who your maker could be.
You have no idea who he could be?
Some of the ancient ones fled England. Some may still be in hiding. All I know is you, my friend, are a pawn in some secret and obscure game of chess.
He is the only immortal I've seen appear in an ethereal form. His voice, his words seemed ancient. It was disturbing.
Haro, that's so cool.
Right.
That's so cool.
The simple fact that your blood made Mary such a strong Ekon proves that you must be of ancient lineage.
My turn to ask questions.
I think I should ask the questions, your ladyship. After all, it was you who invited me to settle this most urgent of matters.
Fair enough, Jonathan. The situation is critical. We do not have the luxury for etiquette.
Please do not misunderstand me. I would be delighted to discuss mundane matters and idle trivialities.
If we survive the dark nights to come, we shall have all the time in the world to speak, you and I.
The Dark Knight.
For now, please follow.
Batman is here. Have I told you guys I really like Bruce Wayne?
Just say, your house is exquisite.
One of the advantages of living forever is having the time to be selective with one's furnishings.
Good.
I took the liberty of having tea served.
Because he's a pervert, yes. We're allowed to say that. Automod, we can say pervert in my chat. I've told you this so many times.
Can't keep it down, but I do so enjoy the aroma. Let us toast to make-believe. And of course, to your health, Jonathan.
Girl, that cup of tea is so big. Holy shit, girl. That's huge. How much tea do you drink?
Please, call me Elizabeth.
Call me Elizabeth.
So,
Elizabeth, why do you have so much tea?
did you invite me here?
I've been asked to deliver an official invitation to meet the Ascalon Club.
Oh my god, kiss, kiss. Why you?
Why use you to contact me?
Because they know we are close. The Ascalon Club has many spies. Their main occupation is gathering information and then deciding how to use it.
Have they threatened you in any way?
Not at all. Their message surprised me at first. But it is only logical, considering the critical situation in London.
Okay.
Why not ask for your help? Since you are obviously a powerful and influential immortal yourself.
You have to understand that I am invisible to the eyes of Ascalon, for I am a woman. That suits me well, as long as they leave me alone.
She's like, you thought vampires wouldn't be misogynistic?
Who are they? Really?
They are the embodiment of vampire law in Britain. Some say they influence the destiny of the Empire. Some believe they merely protect it.
It makes sense that vampires would be on the side of the crown. Hey, this is time for another Dove stating his political and ideological leanings. Fuck the crown. Lizzie is burning in hell right now. That's not a hot take, but it's an important take.
How many are they?
Only a small number of powerful and deceitful immortals. All of them entangled in a sticky web of shadow cabinets, influencing trade.
In fact, I'll go one step further. I'm gonna make it clear right now. I will write so many fucking lore beats in my TTRPGs about queens and kings and like monarchies and like a lot of it is that fluff and that fantasy that we really love. But understand that is simply because it is very useful writing to have characters individually represent movements. Great man theory is great for fiction, but great man theory is shit for real life history. Fuck the real life crown.
Will they fight the guard of Priwen?
I doubt it. Fergal was Lord Redgrave's executioner forever and a day. By defeating that beast, you deprived them of a powerful weapon.
Okay.
Should I trust
I got fishy. Good.
Not.
Fish.
Do not misunderstand me. They can be very useful, but I believe their long-term goals differ from yours.
Fishy.
Why meet them then?
Because nothing truly important can be achieved in this city without their consent. They could be powerful allies in this current situation.
Okay.
To them.
We all lie, Jonathan. It falls to you to choose your behavior. The most important rule is to show them due respect.
Got it. So we're going to be meeting the Camarilla.
They have done nothing but impede my investigation since I became known to them. Why would they want to see me now?
I guess they now see you as Ascalon material. They must have found out what happened to your sister. Proof of the potent blood flowing through your veins.
I'm not sure I can accept their invitation. I have seen their handiwork. How Fergal the Beast imposed the club's law.
You have no choice, John. Even I would not openly defy Lord Redgrave, the chairman of the Ascalon Club.
Okay, that dialogue was a bit expositional. She didn't have to say the chairman of the Ascalon Club afterwards. She could have just said Lord Redgrave. Tacking that on at the end felt a little bit like, hey, you weren't paying attention, gamer.
What can you tell me about Lord Redgrave? Who is he?
Lord Redgrave is the founder and chairman of the Ascalon Club. Most mortals know him as the Earl of Bristol. He is rich and extremely influential.
How old is he? How long has he been a vampire?
Lord Redgrave claims to be the progeny of William Marshall, the most valiant knight who ever lived. If that is true, he could be very old.
You met him?
Only on rare occasions, for he never goes outside the club. And women are not awarded membership, even immortals.
Wow. I heard Earl and a million images of CL beams my brain in a fraction of a second. I love CL Phantom Hive. I would dress like him in a different color palette, and then we would entwine our knees and look at the camera in mutual disgust.
How powerful is his reach?
The Ascalon Club may be the most influential secret society in England. Not all its members are immortals, but they are all very powerful.
They are not all immortals. How is that?
The club is mainly comprised of political figures who seek the safety and expansion of the Empire. The most loyal are awarded immortality.
Yeah, classic.
Any familiar or famous names?
As the richest, most relentless British tycoon, Aloysius Dawson is
Aloysius.
steal Ascalon material and has been watched for years.
I think you broke Eve. I see it.
If you are convinced I must meet him, I will heed your advice.
Thank you, Jonathan. I understand your reluctance to brush shoulders with London's vampire elite. But we have no choice.
Is the situation that critical?
Yes. The Guard of Prewen has called for a second great hunt of our kind. And they will stop at nothing to eliminate.
This is just VTM, guys. The Camarilla, the Second Inquisition, it's all here. It's all here. We'll continue talking to Girly Pop after these short messages. It's an ad break. See you in a bit. Okay, welcome back in. Hi. Let me see here. Doing a little adjustment. Okay. We'll see about that. Cool. Right, they were about to kiss.
Will the Guard of Prewen and the Ascalon Club fight each other?
I doubt it. If Prewen really launched a great hunt, I think most of the Econs I know would flee the country to escape the bloodbath.
I think I saw them kill an Econ on the way to your house. They seem to have a list with names.
To launch another great hunt, They must have intelligence on vampire identities and whereabouts. They are a resourceful lot.
Got it.
Should we fight back? I will not be hunted down like an animal again.
I admire your courage, Jonathan. But the best way to fight them is to put an end to the epidemic. This is the only way to clear the air.
Interesting. And very real.
What is a great hunt?
The first great hunt was launched about 75 years ago. In just a few nights, the Guard of Priwen located and destroyed most of the vampires.
How did you survive the first hunt?
I fled, Jonathan. Like most vampires who survived that slaughter.
Ah! Why would you throw things at me? I'm getting invested in the fucking story right now, and then you're like...
Why start a second one?
Priwen has always seen us immortals as a threat to mankind. My guess is they suspect one or more of us is the cause of the epidemic.
Okay, and hydrate too, wow.
You should flee then. Leave London, the country even. I have seen the Guard in action. They are merciless.
Your concern warms my heart, Jonathan. But fear not. If the situation gets too dangerous, I shall retreat to my secret Scottish manor. I could hide you in my luggage, if you wish.
Thank you for the offer. I shall keep it in mind, but I...
Can they stop fucking on screen?
There is a question I must ask you. Could Lord Redgrave be my maker?
I doubt it. If Lord Redgrave had made you his progeny, he would not have seemed so surprised when you demonstrated the strength of your lineage.
Wow. So real.
Will I ever discover the identity of my maker?
Maybe not.
Is the woman also ever? Yeah.
We know for sure you were made by a powerful vampire, but most of those fled England long ago.
Has Ashbury commented on Jonathan's murder eyes? No one has. And it's getting a little bit weird to me. Because these are kind of obvious.
Please forgive my bluntness, but I have to ask. Was it you? Did you make me?
Oh, Jonathan. I know you shall always have a gnawing doubt about who made you.
Gnawing.
But I swear, I had nothing to do with it.
You have no idea at all? You seem to know so many things about the secrets of the vampire underworld.
Even if I had my suspicions, I would not dare give you a name so soon. All I can say is this. I will make inquiries and keep you informed.
Cool. What's the plan?
What is the plan?
The plan is we both try to save this city, you and I. Go to Ascalon, accept their proposition, and use their influence to promote your agenda.
Okay.
How can I save London?
The epidemic is the priority. You must find its origin and put an end to it. This is the best way to solve the crisis.
So I can tell right now what they're going to do is they're going to give me a choice of whether to sell out the sewer scows or not. And it depends very strongly on how much I like the characters in the Ascalon Club. That's about it. Largely because we commented on this. It's unfortunate that the sewer scows as a faction only have like 2 characters. Old Beatrice, old Betty, the leader, the sort of matron of them, and then that nasty old lady who's angry and full of pain. And they're cool, but then it's just like a bunch of like, oh, I'm a background, I'm an ascended extra, young lord. Oh, like just kind of sock puppets. And if anyone in Ascalon Club is at all more charming, then I know who I'm gonna side with.
What will you do?
I'm not immune to Riz.
And old friends in this town. I shall make some inquiries and attempt to learn more of the situation.
One day soon.
So sleepy.
I will have to find the answer to this mystery.
And And I shall help you in your research, I promise. For now, you must go to the Ascalon Club and play their game.
Will I see you again at the Pembroke Hospital?
No, you will find me here if you need me. I shall conduct inquiries alone, and we can then share our discoveries.
Hearing you use brain rot terms is like a gut punch. You don't think Dove Bleeding Heart can speak on the woke skibbity Riz, Ohio? I'm online, motherfucker. I know what the youths are speaking of on the TikTok. I'm Leon. Normally I can tell what you're trying to type. That one's...
Will you not visit Pembroke again?
No.
Leaving.
I must remain discreet and avoid attracting attention to Pembroke Hospital for the time being.
But how will you sustain yourself?
I shall not, Jonathan. Fear not. I'm used to it.
Never mind. I'm saying that. I swear I did not time that. That was a great stretch, though. I needed it.
When will we meet again?
As soon as you meet Lord Redgrave, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Fear not, my dear. I shall only be a heart's beat away.
My dear. Lady Ashbury has been really laying this shit on thick.
I want to thank you for all your support and your help, my lady.
Could you do me a last great favor and call me Elizabeth?
I should be honored, my lady.
Then it is settled. Finally, some good news in these dark hours.
Thank you.
Kiss already.
I appreciate the
Fuck.
advice. I had best prepare myself to meet this Lord Redgrave now.
How thrilling to meet the Earl of Bristol in the flesh, so to speak.
They're basically married now. Yeah, on first name basis with Elizabeth of Ashbury.
None of the Ascalon Club are honorable, but their attitude and opinions are somewhat antiquated.
I see.
As long as they deny access to female applicants, I will leave them to their antediluvian considerations as to the natural order of things. Jonathan?
She doesn't mean that literally.
Be careful.
She can't mean that literally.
Of course. But why the fear in your voice?
She can't mean antediluvian literally. No way none of these fuckers are that old.
I mean, really look at me, young Ekon.
Whoa! Stop! Stop trying to flirt him up. This is...
Deceptive by nature. But this heart of mine has always told the truth.
Elizabeth.
Stop!
Go, my friend. But come back to me soon.
I love heterosexual yaoi. No, no. The way she said, my friend, mwah. Mountain Now make Elizabeth a trans man so they can be yaoi. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Liz is just waiting for society to get on that level. Holy Christ. I'm happy we stopped in at Lizzie's place.
So, time to visit the Ascalon Club.
New dialogue. We're going back in. Fellas, we're going back in. Elizabeth, I'm sorry. I just saw that you had a new dialogue event and I had to just check that we had said everything we needed to say. Oh, I'm allowed to be in here. Liz, I'm taking all of your stuff. Sorry, Lizzie. I forgot my phone here. Oh, what a lovely little spot. What a great fucking environment. Environment work in this game has been top fucking notch the entire time. Making a John X Elizabeth fan cam AMV set to John Take Me With You. To the inspiring Lady Ashbury, there are darknesses in life and there are lights, but you are one of the lights, the light of all lights. Bram Stoker, 4th of August, 1897. This Dracula book?
Right.
Interesting. Liz, your house is nice. She's painting John. Red alert! Red alert! Red alert! She's painting John. Oh my god. Sorry, I didn't mean to look at your whips. I'm so sorry. Sorry, I'll just keep frisking your house for valuables. I didn't mean to look at your whips like that. I feel so scandalized. Show! We need to in-rest some cooling rods before it goes critical. No! They're boron. They aren't boron tipped. They're graphite tipped. We're gonna explode. Ah! I like that show. Yeah, Chernobyl was good. Only a few of us remain after the shock of the Great Hunt. I was one of them. I remember how sudden the attack of the enemy caught us all by surprise. Blood was shed during those few nights. Some of us who survived chose to exile. I don't blame them, but I regret their lack of fortitude. For it is courage we need to protect our interests and the interests of the Empire. Courage we need to defend the values we stand for. May we all remember that William Marshall himself never lowered his head. My beloved Maker may be long gone now, but his presence is still among us. We keep a few drops of his sacred blood to remind us what we are and what we seek: honor, purity, and excellence. I had the privilege of speaking with the knight many times, and as his progeny, and as his friend. He spoke to me of the tear of angels, the holy beverage supposed to appease the inextinguishable hunger we all feel. That he never ceased to search, even without knowing if such an artifact exists. I admired his tenacity. And it is this tenacity, this indefectible belief in something bigger than us, that will make us survive any future great hunt launched by our enemies. Ascalon will be rebuilt, always, for it is an ideal. From The Law of Ascalon by Lord Redgrave, founder. Nice lore. Whoa, she just kind of zoomed.
Hello again, Jonathan. To what do I owe the pleasure of your visit?
Sorry to disturb you again, but could you spare me a few minutes?
Of course, my dear. Always a pleasure to speak with you.
Concerning your investigation.
Yes?
Are you truly seeking to identify my maker?
I cannot promise you anything, but yes. I am conducting some research of my own.
Do you know if the epidemic has affected many people in the West End?
I confess I've been more concerned by events in the East End. The wealthy have more efficient ways of dealing with infection.
But this is no common epidemic.
That is true. I must tell my daughter to stay at home for a few days. But the girl is stubborn and fiercely independent. Much like her mother.
Daughter?
Do you think we shall ever see better days? Or at least better nights?
I know not, Jonathan. I have seen some horrid days in my long lifetime. Experience has taught me that one cannot outrun the fates.
When all of this is over, the war and the epidemic, we could leave the city for a while. Travel around Europe, you and I.
Traveling is always so complicated for us poor creatures of the night. But yes, I would be glad to travel the world with you, my dear.
Stop. You can't be doing this on Twitch. I'm gonna get censored.
Your story one day, Lady Ashbury.
One of them, perhaps. I have had so many lives, Jonathan. Eternity may not be enough to relate them all.
She's grooming him. This is so good. Awooga. Wow. Fucking wild. Okay, we need to go to Pembroke. We need to go to Whitechapel. We got more events to check in on. Why is there hot vampire intercourse on my screen? Hey, I'll do you one better. Why is the heterosexual vampire intercourse so compelling? That's a sign of good writing. And honestly, I don't know why I'm so compelled by this, because they've known each other for about 40 minutes. I exaggerate. It's been, it feels like it may have been like a few weeks, diegetically speaking. But then again, like, romances, as we know from like historical documents, kind of went fast and loose in the way back. Can I cut through this park? Would it be smart to cut through this park? Yeah, I'm gonna just cut straight through the park. Straight line until that sort of zone. Yeah. Oh shit, that's one of those dudes that Fergal this.
Watch yourselves! Did you hear me?
Why are you not fighting?
Come closer.
Or is this just a big guy? Whoa! Do you like romance as a genre? Generally, no. And I think a big part of that is this consistent weakness of things that comport themselves as primarily romance.
Steady, boys! We've got one of them here!
And the weakness of things that generally build themselves as romances above all else, as far as I'm concerned, is that they know what they're about, which is the couple and other characters that illustrate the couple, right? The romance is about the chemistry of two, sometimes three if it's based, two characters, and everything else in the world is in service of that chemistry. So if something builds itself as like romance as a genre, it tends to focus on that so much that other elements become weak, and I feel that the entire piece as a whole weakens. Whereas if something has romance in it as a key element, but it builds itself as a thriller, as a horror, as a this, as a that, then I am much more likely to enjoy the romance in it.
Good evening, Zhao Shu.
晚上好, Dr. Reed. It's good to see you again.
晚上好. I took a few years of Mandarin Chinese in school. I don't remember very much at all.
How is the sanitary situation evolving in Whitechapel these days?
My only relief is that my Matthew died before seeing the madness that approaches. I'm afraid we won't survive this trial, Dr. Reed.
That's a weird way to phrase that. She's like, I wish my husband could have lived to see how fucked shit got.
What are you doing with your time now that you're back in Whitechapel?
I've decided to help the poor and sick of the neighborhood by handing out medicine.
Oh, that's sweet, honey. Too bad I'm gonna kill you soon.
That's very charitable of you. But why do it at night?
I've noticed that the most desperate people tend to go out after dark. Hence my presence, to help them when I can.
Good job. Good job.
Giving out medicine? How can you afford to do that?
I am a rich widow, Dr. Reed. My departed husband left me enough money to last the rest of my life. I can spend some on those who don't have any.
Based. Can you give me a book recommendation? Absolutely, lay it out. Just know that I don't generally have time to read books nowadays.
Why don't you move to a better neighborhood?
I thought about it, I confess. To go back to the same empty home every day still hurts me a lot.
Why stay here then?
I am a woman of habit, Dr. Reed. And for now, I am happier being useful in a familiar place than I would be anywhere else.
God, I like her.
How do you feel? Physically speaking, I mean.
I'm as well
Exquisite Corpse? I've heard of it.
connected, Dr.
I've heard good things. I'm short one question before I can juice her.
How do you feel now that you're back in Whitechapel?
I've decided to follow your advice, sir. I won't forget the dead, but my efforts will be for the living.
I've no doubt. That is a wise and useful attitude in this part of town.
To be completely honest with you, I'm also doing this for myself. If I'm destined to survive this epidemic, I need my life to have some purpose.
Makes sense. Well, she's ready for juicing. I don't know if I wanna.
Do you still think about your departed husband?
Of course I do. I'll never forget my beloved Matthew, but how do I put it? Now I miss him more than I want him back.
Whoa!
And I think it means you're getting better.
Maybe death will
That was a
take
good
away
fucking line.
you, without warning and without mercy. But until then, I live on.
That was a good fucking line. Holy shit. Whoever wrote that has lived with grief. Whoa.
Goodbye for now.
Okay. Xiaoshun is ripe. So we're gonna a lot of people and then we can juice them. Is there a very specific endgame or is there multiple ways the story can pan out? It looks like the story can pan out a lot of ways. I'm not trying to kill everybody. I don't like the natural instinct when it comes to games like this is you tend to want to do all one way, all another way. Those tend to be the two endings, and then like there generally is like a catch-all middle ground ending. And a lot of gamers instinctually will choose one of these paths in advance. That's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to go where the mechanics are leading me. And the mechanics of the game are leading me to get to know these people, juice them in big batches, keep the districts healthy with medicine. And if the character writing compels me to divert away from those mechanics, I will. I'm not hunting an ending. I'm trying to do what the game seems to be trying to make me feel like I should do. Because I'm interested in writing I'm interested in game design as part of writing, I should say. The game is encouraging me to behave this way, and I want to see why. I want to see why they're trying to funnel me in this direction. How is that thematically relevant? And so far, it's good. It shows the insidious and manipulative nature of vampire fantasy. It shows the cruel, arbitrary selectiveness of the predator class in a dire situation. It's really good. I have to go to sleep. Good night, Maury. Go turn around in your little doggy bed 3 times and then lay down and huff. But yeah, so we're not going for anything specific. I'm just following where the game's themes are taking me. Okay, the only person who's really ripe here is Xiaoshun, but we're not going to go for it yet.
Its effectiveness has been proven by many. Even the flu is no match for the Swanborough cordial.
We're going here. I'm very pleased with how that went. So has Dorothy gone nuts? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that Dorothy? Level 12. Idiot. Oh yeah, that's Dorothy. You hear her snarling upstairs. That's absolutely her. I should have sipped you when I had the chance, girly. Oh, you're stinky. Why are you stinky? Got her. Oh, she decided to explode. So I think this is a new enemy type then. There are stinkies who do the stinky. And then they explode when they die. Ooh, headache treatments. That's useful. Medical voucher. A free medical exam. Oh, yay. Lots of ingredients too. That's a really useful kill. And who's this? No one. No one. Okay. So that was all that. Any other exclamation points I need to investigate? Just the hospital. Cool. So I'll just follow this road and then start heading. You know, I'm closer to the fucking Ascalon Club. Let's do it. So this is the barrier I'm trying to go through. I want to meet some new characters. This the right way? Yeah, it is. I don't really I feel like this game wouldn't have been hurt so badly by a mini-map.
I cannot enter.
Oh, I cannot enter. Gang, I'm sorry, I cannot enter. I would have liked to. That would have been great, but as it turns out, I cannot enter. I'm gonna have to like do this nasty little loop. As Patrick from Clive Barker's Undying would say, jammed.
As long as you have the money.
Good evening, Ben. How can
I hear gunshots every...
Anything? All right.
gun?
I don't know why I decided to talk to him. I just did. Okay, okay. So the plan is follow this road, take a right, take a right. Okay. Wait, actually, I'm thinking if I run into Bates, if I run into Cadogan Bates, I might be ready to because now that the fucking rent has been lowered around here. Okay, these are scowls we don't have. Can't interact while I'm in combat. Hello, Wolfman. Woo! Idiot. Ah. I like that the Wolfman has shadow powers now. That's hot. That reminds me of some shit I'm writing. An ongoing. Hey, I may or may not have spoken on this. I do intend to write a novel at some point, and if my fucking schedule cleans up, I'll get back on that. I'm quite proud of what I have so far. And fucking Wolfman with shadow powers just made me think of it again. That's one half of the Yowie couple. Eh.
Head back if I were you, sir.
Here we go. Die, vermin! Okay. What? How are we? I want to open this gate. Hello. He said Hirsch. Woof. Anyway, it's time for an ad break. Nice combat. Okay, welcome back in. We just saw a dude get fucking killed. It was awesome.
Recognize him?
No. This one ain't on our list.
Well, that's one less anyway. It'll make McCullum happy.
McCollum, there's a name.
Vampire I saw earlier. This war takes no prisoners.
Ah. Oh shit, we can go down there. I'm not trying to do that right now. I want to open this door. Haha. Well, now let's go handle those dudes. I have my manga recently showed me a later chapter. Whoops. Ah, fuck. You got spoiled. You played yourself. As they say, congratulations. You played yourself. Ah! Oh, wow. I'm out of their range. They don't even know. Hmm. Stop with your nasty juice. Oh, that burns my blood away. Ooh.
All of you bloody leeches need killing.
Woof. Bro might get me. Stop. Wow. Wow. Being a blood spell build means I can't do shit if I'm out of juice, and that dude is able to juice me from a range. Now, one thing I'm going to complain about with Vampyr is I feel like the transition from strafe into sprint is so stopping and gross. Where the hell am I? Okay, I know where I am. We just saw these two do a little kill, and that was fun. I hear the snarling up here.
It's locked.
Well, there's a hottie over there. Nice Wolfman moment. All right, fine. I'm not gonna be able to go into that fight with this little blood in my meter. I need to find somewhere to harvest. Hello? What's up here? Oh my god, what's up here?
I cannot enter.
Well, it's locked, so never mind. Don't reward exploration, video game. I guess we're just gonna go talk to the Ascalon Club. Well, well. Oh, gotta dig through a garbage can with a shiny lid. Come on. I have a doctorate. This is what they taught us in medical school. Yeah, no coughing, no spitting, no shitting, no coming. I know.
The West End. Never have I felt so sad to be back home.
Wow. No, so this is obviously our fourth zone. Is this where the game started? Because I already have a hideout marked here, and I'm wondering if that's like... Ooh. I just heard a somebody help me voice. think you'll quite like this zone. I'm already liking this zone. The energy here is nice.
Are you from Ascalon? I don't care.
Whoa, whoa, hello. Woo! I need a better melee drain weapon. What's in here? Where am I?
I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. Do you need help, sir?
I think I'm fine. But what happened to my jailer? Be careful. He's as vicious as he is strong.
You don't have to worry about him anymore. What happened here?
I am Tadao Kimura.
Kimura?
I was imprisoned by this lunatic for several days. I thought I was going to die here.
You're not going to die now, Mr. Kimura. If you hurry, you should be able to get home safely.
It seems that I owe you my life. You have all my gratitude, Dr. Reed, since it's the most precious thing I possess.
It's a bad spine week, I'll tell you what.
Goodbye, Mr. Kimura. Take care.
Yeah, get out of here, dude. Very nice stretch. Shut up. Shut up. Give me your shillings and your bones. Hydrate? Okay, I'll hydrate. Okay, here we go, here we go. Oh, the game did that funny thing again. I like when games sometimes, if you like are in the middle of an animation and you press a directional key, it thinks you're still pressing that directional key for the next 40 years. I think that's fun. I think it's a cute little mistake to make. Okay. Hi. Got her. Whoa. But they explode. Remember, Dove, they explode. Whoa, whoa, okay, okay. So if you bop them again with a blunt, they'll just get back up and get some fucking... There we go. There we go. Yeah, shit's pretty serious here.
This is serious. We could make you delirious.
You guys know what I'm doing there? You know what that is?
We're not candy. Even though we look so fine and dandy.
Guys, that scared the shit out of me. My whole body tensed. I'm like, ugh. Around a corner, and there he is, Mr. Bones. Smokey. Key to Aubrey Reed's office. Ooh. The skeleton appears. The sinister skeleton. Okay. Now I can finally meet my quota of having 2 of each medicine. And then blood serums, honestly, seems to be the way to go next. I don't need a stam serum, that's crazy. Bones! The sinister skeleton. Oh, was that key how I was supposed to get in there? Oh, and that's for leveling up. We're not. Hell yeah, shillings for me. Shillings for me, not for thee.
It's locked.
It's locked. I had a cat named Snowball. He died, he died, he died. Mom said he was sleeping. She lied, she lied, she lied. Why must my little cat be dead? Why couldn't that car hit me instead? I don't know if that's the exact words. I don't know. I don't even know why that's in my head. I just kind of reminded myself of it. This is what it's like to be in my little dove brain. Everything is bouncing around all the time, and sometimes it hits the old vocal processing center. Oh, now this is the locked door we just got. Reed Mansion. Aubrey Reed's first letter. Wow. It's just a series of QTEs that bring up an obscure reference. Exactly. It sucks that what I just did is an obscure reference, but it is an old episode of The Simpsons, so... like season 1 or 2, probably. 3 at the most. My dear and beloved John, when you receive this letter, you will be 35 and I'll be long gone. I feel a little silly writing you this first letter that you won't read for a few years. I struggled for a long time about how best to write you this, till I remembered the puzzle and riddles I invented for you when you were a boy. Oh, how you loved to solve those enigmas. Well, I found it would be a good idea to propose to you one final game. It will probably be less rewarding. No candies or exotic treasures for you if you decipher the game this time. But a greater treasure, perhaps, the truth. This is my only attempt for you to explain why I chose to leave my family without an explanation. If you want to know why, simply play my little game. It's really up to you, my son. Rest assured that I love you. I promise my family was and still is everything to me. I remember the first time I held you and your sister in my arms, my treasures, my jewels. To see you grow up, play, and laugh filled my heart with joy every time I went back to our home. I could have killed to protect you. My son, my daughter, my wife. But fate found me in the end, and I had to make a tough decision. The worst was to disappear without a word. I decided to do it anyway, and soon I'll be gone for good. I don't ask for forgiveness, but for understanding. If you want to know more, all you have to do is remember how happy we were back in those days. If you want to find the next message, think green grass and tall trees on sunny Sundays. Wow. From your affectionate father, Aubrey Reed.
Remember Sunday walks in the park.
He left us a little ARG. That's fun. It's not an ARG. It's an RG. It's real. That's a fun little quest. I like how he just left. Deadbeat dads in every neighborhood of London. Ooh, a character. Let me read this letter before I say hi to that guy. My dear Avery, as I already told you several days ago, I may be forced to leave England, if only for a few months. While I'm away, and until my son comes back to London, I want you to take the best care of our house. I already made the entire necessary arrangements to have your wages increased and paid as long as you'll work. You promised me to protect my dear wife and serve her to the best of your ability. For that, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. If I am never to return, you are the only man I fully trust. Believe me, your most affectionate friend, Ollie Reed. So that was the, yeah, the butler. The butler did it. This loot acquisition notif gets a little annoying with its long delay and 2 at a time limit. I think we could do more in one notif. Okay. Hey, butler.
Good evening, Avery.
Mr. Jonathan, I can't believe my own eyes. Oh, you have come back too late, sir.
I know, Avery. I know about Mary and my mother.
I'm so sorry. It was my duty to watch over her. She left the house in the middle of the night. The police said...
It's all right, Avery.
The police said her body was found near your sister's grave in Whitechapel. You're the master of the house now. I'd understand if you fired me, sir.
No, I'll keep you around till you're right, buddy.
Do you need medical attention, Avery?
I won't refuse, sir. I don't feel that good these days.
Here, have some medicine.
Here is your prescription. You'll feel better soon enough.
Thank you very much, sir.
He had a cold.
What is the situation in this part of town?
For a time, the West End seemed spared by the epidemic. The situation is getting much worse.
Have you no relatives anywhere? I'll understand if you want to take a few days to see family.
Your father managed to guarantee my earnings as long as I take care of this house, sir. My sisters are dead, and I've never met my nephews. I'll stay, sir.
Rock on.
I'm sorry I could not be here for Mary's funeral.
Your mother was strong, sir, but your support would have been appreciated. Apart from the priest and I, no one else attended your sister's funeral.
To be present
Not
at the
true.
funeral with you both.
Mary did.
Dearest wish, Avery. But I'm sorry, I simply could not attend.
I would not dare to question your absence, Mr. Jonathan. All I can say is that we missed you a great deal during these difficult days.
Bro's like, I am an old man with no connections in an isolated location that no one will see. I trust you implicitly.
How was life in this house while I was away?
It was sad, sir. Miss Mary moved here in July after she lost her baby and husband. So I stayed to serve both her and your mother.
How was Mary?
Miss Mary went out looking for you every night after you had written to say that you were coming back. She was sure you were alive. She'll never know she was right.
How was my mother?
Miss Reed was very frail. After Miss Mary was found dead, your mother started talking to herself.
Oh.
She said she was speaking to the dead. She even said that she had seen you.
Was not doing good, the girly pop.
What are the arrangements for my mother's funeral?
There will be no funeral, sir.
Ooh.
No ceremony whatsoever, because of the sanitary situation.
Where is her body then?
I'm afraid your mother's body was moved to a mass grave somewhere.
Wow.
I have no other information. Civil service is paralyzed. London is crumbling down.
This is awesome.
I found an old letter written by my father and addressed to me. Do you know anything about it, Avery?
Your father wanted me to give you this letter for your 35th birthday, but you left for the war, and the letter remained in his office until tonight.
I realize now you knew my father better than I did. Do you know why he left, Avery? Did he ever speak to you about his departure?
No, sir. Mr. Reed was not exactly forthcoming. Perhaps this letter will give you the information you require.
Tell me the truth, Avery. Do you feel forced to stay here? Would you leave this house without the arrangement made by my father?
No, sir. I have nowhere else to go. And I promised your father I'd take care of his family as long as I lived.
This house is dead, Avery. There is a curse on this family. You really should consider leaving.
If only you could have been here sooner or more often. Maybe this house would not be that empty. But you're here now, sir. So my task is not over.
This is great.
You have served this family extremely well, Avery. Your support during these terrible times is much appreciated.
Then I will stay. All I ask is that you take care of my own funeral. I die before the end of the epidemic. No mass grave, please, sir.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'm pretty sure you're gonna die before this is over, my guy.
Do you really think I neglected my mother, Avery?
Yes.
I see. Well, please go on. Speak freely. It's not as if there is anything left to treasure in this house.
Just like your father. You always had this capacity to focus only on what interests you.
Uh-huh.
It surely helped you become a great doctor, but not such a great son.
Bro is willing to lay it out. I love it. Well, Mr. Cork, I can't juice you anyway, but if I could, I wouldn't. Not until, you know, not until it's time.
Thank you, Avery.
Your bedroom is ready as always.
I think he's more useful to me alive right now. It's always good to have a servant to keep the place clean.
The Ascalon Club. The heart of British vampire society. Not quite as subtle as I expected.
This music. They're bringing in synths. Wow! Alright, I'll hydrate. Do you hear that? There's... That's so cool that they're bringing in synths into the soundtrack for this. Show me the boys. Now. I know this is an all-boys club. Show me the boys.
Do you know where you are standing right now?
In front of the Ascalon Club, I presume.
The Ascalon Club only summons or ostracizes. What is your business tonight?
I received an invitation. I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed.
Welcome to the Ascalon Club, then, Dr. Reed. Please proceed. Lord Redgrave is waiting on you upstairs.
I'm gonna eat all of these people. Oh yeah. Look at this environment. Just some dead people laying around.
Quite a battle here.
I'm gonna call it.
The Ascalon Club has the money to replace the furniture.
I'm gonna call it right here, right now. I'm gonna try talking to this dude, and he's gonna be like, "No one keeps Lord Redgrave waiting."
Welcome to the Ascalon Club, then, Dr. Reed. Welcome to the Ascalon.
Okay, fine. He's still not gonna. Fashion-wise, full-length made art attire is beautiful, but I could. In a vest and a butler attire, I'm like not confident in the figures, but I know that much. Yeah, for sure. Arthur Pembleton. Wasn't that the protagonist of Silent Hill Downpour? No, Murphy Pendleton.
It's locked, all right.
I should play Silent Hill Downpour and stream one day. That is not a good Silent Hill game at all, but it has a lot of stuff in it that I like. Was that outside? I hope it wasn't outside. Never heard of that one, but it sounds fun. It made a mistake. Silent Hill Downpour asked the question, what if we let a bunch of Americans make the next Silent Hill and make it open world? What a horrible what if that turned out to be. Now, there's some really good fucking scares in there and a lot of fun spectacle. It is like a later generation Silent Hill game, and it has like good graphics, fun art direction, stuff like that. But there's just a lot of stupid. You know what it is? It's very PS3. It is very PlayStation 3 / negative. Where people were starting to like feel out and define what a AAA game was. And a lot of sort of like tropes sort of came together. A lot of the design is extremely PlayStation 3. Ooh, I got the basement key. I know no one keeps Lord Redgrave waiting, but I'm gonna keep him waiting while I just frisk the drawers of this entire joint for shillings. Whenever I think of PS3 derogatory, I think of Heavy Rain. Yeah, Heavy Rain is the or example of, can we fucking relax? David Cage, you absolute savant. Good dagger. How good is the dagger, though? Okay, so this has Absorb 2.5. Absorb 2.5. 121. 121. I have 2 of Clay's hatchet. That's so weird. No, that's just what I have equipped in general. I have 1 Clay's hatchet. Okay, I was comparing it against itself. Hmm. 10 blood absorption and good dagger. I think I'll use that more than the gun, honestly. Is good dagger a 2-handed weapon? No, okay. Okay, cool. We need to go to the basement now is the thing, because I have the key to it now. You understand? That's outside. Yeah, before I even talk to Redgrave, I'm gonna fucking look at what's in his basement. There better be boys down here, chained up and bleeding, with tubes running into their thighs. Better be boys with piss tubes. As Escalon members, we always tend to respect etiquette. We are, in all ways, members of the good society, sometimes recognized as public figures. We do not find our delight in orgies and bloodbath, like our adversaries assert we do. And if one of us were caught in such caricatured and immoral act, he would receive the appropriate opprobrium. But what about the blood? What about its recreational use? How could we deny the ecstasy the vermilion ambrosia brings us, and with what else could we toast with, as any good fraternity should? To answer this delicate question, the law of conduct inside the club goes as follows. As long as the original mortal vessel is not brought inside our walls, each member is allowed to drink whatever he wants, for his own usage or to share it with friends. Drink what you want, deal the way you want with the original vessel, but never inside the club. Unless I personally authorize it on some special occasion, of course. Alright, Redgrave. Club membership refund for no boys with piss tubes. Absolutely. This is a fun little rule. To prevent vampire orgies, do not bring living victims in here. You can juice them outside and bring in like a Capri Sun flask. Was that it? Was that all we had down here? Because this door isn't real. Maybe something will happen down here. We're about to go meet Eddie Redmayne. Final check to make sure I'm not. Oh!
Good evening.
Oh. Is that an urn of ashes? Oh, that probably has the sacred juice.
Behold our visitor, the good Dr. Reed. Newborn of blood so pure and strong that even my friend Fergal Bansher was no match for him.
Ooh.
Here, here.
Come forward, young Ekon, for we have so much to discuss.
That was good choreography. John feels like he's surrounded by a pack of wolves right now.
The Ascalon Club, Dr. Reed. I am Lord Redgrave, Earl of Bristol and chairman of this exclusive association.
Don't care. It's ad time.
Bye.
Okay, welcome back in. We're about to talk to these vampire Republicans, and yes, they're not hot, which is so unfortunate.
Lord Redgrave.
At last we meet. I've been eager to make your acquaintance. I've heard some astounding things about you. Please accept my condolences for your loss, Dr. Reed.
Thank you, my lord. Lady Ashbury expressed your wish to meet me.
Yes. The lady has always been a useful acquaintance, though not always reliable. Is she a good friend of yours?
Can you suplex them? Unfortunately, while this man does look pretty suplexable, let me just check. No, that's not a locomotive. That's not a locomotive, so I don't think it would work.
She has proved to be helpful on many occasions.
The centuries have taught me never to trust a woman completely, especially if she is a mortal. Too prone to emotions, if you ask me.
Whatever you say, this is your house.
Comes to important decisions.
My lord, do not expect me to speak ill of Lady Ashbury.
Of course not, and I praise your loyalty. Would you offer the same fidelity to the Empire?
What do you mean?
I speak of the Skull Plague that threatens London and the country. You have been on the front line in the East End, but the time has come to open up a second front here.
The epidemic has escaped the quarantine. You have new cases of the outbreak.
We don't know for certain, but we cannot allow the disease to threaten the prominent heads of Great Britain.
Why are you suddenly so friendly? The last time I met one of yours, he tried to kill me.
Are you referring to Fergal? He was the most useful of servants, but he was just a servant. You, on the other hand, Doctor, proved yourself much more worthy.
You want me to find possible sources of the outbreak in the West End? Is that it?
Ah, straight to the point, like all eager newborns. We shall have time to talk about all this, Dr. Reed, but first, I should like to get to know you better.
Talk? Is that the only reason you asked me here?
Well, no. I also wanted to meet the intriguing Ekon, who made such a powerful progeny of his sister. You have not learned the name of your maker, am I correct?
So what I like is that this is sort of like making me think, yeah, Mary was really fucking powerful. I can't do half the shit she could do. I would like to. I want to go bonking people with a headstone.
No, I haven't.
Have no embarrassment, Dr. Reed. We all make mistakes. But whatever your lineage, you are definitely Ascalon material.
What do you mean?
I would like you to become a member of the Ascalon Club, and to serve me as such.
Okay.
Before I accept, I have so many questions.
Please ask.
What does it mean to be a member of the Ascalon Club?
It means that you swear to protect the interests of the Crown.
Yee.
Become a loyal servant of the British Empire.
Yee.
Do you have any official recognition from the government? A charter from His Majesty the King?
No. Of course, the Ascalon Club publicly supports the Empire, but the true nature of its members remains a secret.
Welcome back, Aaron. Welcome back to the Yee moment. Double loyal servant, yeah, honestly.
Am I supposed to follow orders?
As founder and chairman of the club, I alone am entitled to make demands of our members, and I do appreciate obedience.
I killed Fergal, who claimed to be one of yours, sent to cleanse the East End of all skulls. Will his death be an issue?
Do not worry. My priorities have changed. Fergal was a zealous servant of mine, but like any servant, he had his limitations and is readily replaced if necessary.
I put on a collar for us. I did not. I put on a collar for Astaroth because he wanted to see it. I do things for him, not for you. You do things for me. There's a chain of command here.
What is the Ascalon Club's express purpose?
We follow the credo of William Marshall, the greatest knight who ever lived.
Uh-huh.
As was he, we are sworn to protect the British Empire.
What does Ascalon mean?
Ascalon was the lance wielded by St. George, glorious patron saint of England when he slew the dragon. And like that lance, we pierce the hearts of all our nation's enemies.
William Marshall founded the Ascalon Club.
Ooh, I'm finishing my water.
William Marshall granted me immortality, and I founded the club a few years later. The good knight has been gone for so long.
Okay, so William Marshall was a vampire. Got it. Okay, so I'm being forced to join, but I think I can just, you know, lie.
I agree to join the club.
This is good news. Good news indeed in these crucial times. Let's inform the assembly formally and proceed with your initiation.
My initiation?
Fear not. Nothing fancy nor dangerous. It is just that we, the members of Ascalon, believe that tradition and custom are the backbone of this country.
God, I hate him.
My fellow members, dear friends, please gather and welcome this Ekon as one of our own.
Is he worthy? Is his blood pure?
Well, speak, Dr. Reed, in front of the most sacred blood. The blood of our beloved William Marshall, speak now. Will you serve and protect the crown as he did?
Yes, I will.
Then, young Ekon, it is time to testify with your blood. It is time to sign the Book of Allegiance.
Oh, that book wasn't just a prop. Wait.
It's awfully gothic and a tad pedantic, but England's traditions are the backbone
Wait.
of our nation.
Wait. Hold the fuck on. They have a membership charter with everyone's signatures in blood? Can I just steal this and give this to the Priwen? Like this is such a sensitive fucking document to have in the city. What the fuck? Don't taste it. Don't taste it.
Welcome to the Ascalon Club, Dr. Reed. Take your place among the bearers of the lance.
One of us! One of us!
Cool. Is this old dude a vampire?
Good evening, Dr. Reed.
Aloysius.
This evening's centerpiece, figuratively.
It's quite unsettling. As a doctor, I am more used to being the observer than the subject observed.
Do not be alarmed. The Ascalon Club has a tried and...
These people look like Ventru. Absolutely, this is the most Ventru shit in the world.
I ask who you are, sir.
Why would you...
Sebastian LaCroix is like downstairs.
You seem to be the only man in the room with a beating heart. You draw quite a bit of attention yourself.
Ah, vampire senses never cease to fascinate me. They dwarf those of mere mortals. I am Aloysius Dawson, by the way.
I don't know why sometimes specifically Eve's messages fail to show up in chat for me. Interesting. You know why?
Mr. Dawson, of Dawson and Dawson, the wealthiest man in England. It is a pleasure to meet such a prominent figure of London.
A withering London figurehead, to be precise.
Are you sick, Mr. Dawson? I am a doctor, you know.
My case is beyond the scope of traditional medicine. I have spent fortunes on the world's most competent doctors to arrive at that diagnostic conclusion.
I'm sorry to hear that, sir. Should I suppose that you're here in search of some form of immortality?
Absolutely not. I'm here to implement my plan to save the city I was born in. To cast out the ghastly evil that has us all on our knees.
Interesting.
What do you know about the Guard of Priwen?
I should not say this, but I admire their commitment. This is what the nation needs right now.
But they are our enemies.
They are not mine, Dr. Reed.
Interesting. What a character.
Would you help them?
No. There is a time for such methods. But brute force will not be enough to fight this plague. We have to think differently.
This is a good fucking character.
What is the situation like in this part of town?
I am sure Lord Redgrave will enlighten you more effectively than I.
Money cannot solve every problem. This mysterious epidemic is going to require more than money can buy.
You're right. Money is nothing unless one has the will to wield it. I have a plan, sir. A radical one that will save all that is essential in London.
How selective.
Plan then.
Quarantine and barricades are futile. What we need is a wall. A formidable, unscalable wall. Isolate the deserving from the infected mass.
I was so interested in where he was going with this, and and then he says, "I want to build a wall." He really had me there. He had me in the first half there. He really did. I'll lie to him.
Complete isolation has proven effective throughout history, but the death toll has always been a high one.
I am glad
This is comedy.
and the concept of necessary sacrifice.
Are you not mistaking sacrifice for summary execution?
Why do you care? Are you not a vampire? Removed from all mortal concerns?
Bro's like, I have 20 minutes to live. I'm gonna build a wall.
And it needs it now.
Incredible. Incredible. What a humorous and funny little moment. These two are ascended extras, can't talk to him. Dawson is the pillar here, not... Okay, that's interesting.
That went well, did it not? It is always useful to bolster the troops' morale, especially before a difficult battle.
You have the makings of a general, my lord.
I was, though very long ago, well, not quite a general, but a proud defender of the crown.
So why did you really want to meet me?
Straight to the point again, young Ekon. All right, let's talk, you and I, Lance Sparrow.
I'm listening, my lord.
According to my spies, you have worked with Dr. Edgar Swansea on the epidemic, and your findings were quite alarming.
You know Ed? Hi, Emma.
Do you know Edgar
Good morning.
Swansea?
Not personally, but I've been told he has some sort of immortal fetish and is a good friend of yours.
Does it bother you?
So the game acknowledges Edgar's gay as hell.
As long as you reveal nothing of the club's inner workings, why should I forbid you engaging in conversation with the good Dr. Swansea?
You were spying on me.
Not personally. I rarely leave this building. But once he found you, Fergal kept me informed. And so I managed to
Oh, my knees were cracking.
Who was Fergal? I don't see him sipping tea with the others in the club.
Fergal Banshire was my squire of sorts. Even before becoming that magnificent beast, he was a brute. He served me well for decades.
No, I mean, what was he? He was clearly no ordinary vampire.
No, he was a Volcod, all muscles and instinct. Quite the rare breed, ferociously territorial. Mortals often mistake them for werewolves.
Ah.
You do know I killed him.
Yes.
Will you bear ill will towards me for his death?
Of course not. Your victory was quite impressive and courageous. You earned my respect.
Yes, I'm convinced the recent invasion of frenzied Scals in London is directly linked to the epidemic. This is not the Spanish flu, but something else.
Be glad to hear more of your discoveries, Dr. Reed, but for now, my main concern is the security of London's inhabitants, both mortal and immortal.
What do you mean?
Alarmed by the epidemic, the God of Priwen has started a war against us British vampires. To appease the situation, we must eradicate the Skulls.
I have met peaceful and wise Skulls. To exterminate them means we are no better than vampire hunters.
Skulls are hideous, shameful creatures that give all Ekon a bad name.
What do you want me to do?
I want you to investigate the city thoroughly. I have reason to fear there are cases of contagion in this part of town. Our absolute priority is to find and cleanse them.
And how would you like me to proceed?
By all means necessary, Dr. Reed. You are now a member of the Ascalon Club and you have carte blanche. Interrogate the locals, follow all the leads you find, and get results.
Ooh, thanks for the mesmerize level, dude. So here's the shit. I said up ahead of this that I would sell out the Skulls if anyone in the Ascalon Club was charming enough to sort of like to sort of impress me enough to want like which characters I ultimately like more as characters. And functionally speaking, I'm a bit disappointed by the Ascalon Club. I feel like this the gang in here is not that interesting. There's one more person to talk to. They still have a chance to change my mind. There's a motherfucker down here.
Welcome to the Ascalon.
Okay, I still can't talk to... still can't talk to Arthur. So fuck. I think we're siding with the Skulls on this just because the Ascalon Club is unfortunately lacking in hotties and sweet boys. It's just a bunch of fucking Republicans withering away in the corner. Screw them.
I think Lord Redgrave just suggested I was sired by an ancient vampire.
Women die too in this war.
Ah, now this is a classic. This is a classic thing in period gaming. They gotta add a feminist, a suffragette. There's always one yelling and then taking a smoke break. Girls get smoke breaks too. Ooh. You know what? We're gonna do this investigation later. Because right now, gang, I'm not gonna lie. I'm so sleepy. I'm so sleepy. So I'm gonna cut the stream short today. Sorry, I know we have like half an hour left, but like, I'm so sleepy. We're gonna come over here. Hey, come over here. Hey! Don't throw things at me while I'm saying goodbye to you all. Ah! I'll hydrate after the stream is over, okay? Gang, I'm so sleepy. So, thank you all so much for coming. This has been a lovely little Vampyr stream. Good morning. Let's see who we can raid into. Breezy? Right now? Emma, what the fuck? That's like, this is such a waste. Normally, Breezy runs for until the next ad break. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna refund that, and you can save that for next time, okay? I'll see you later. I'm gonna get this raid done, and I'm gonna refund that Breezy. Okay. Oh, and Ray is streaming. Awesome. We're gonna raid right into Ray. All right, everyone, thank you so much for coming. Good morning.